Because what's interesting, when you look at the statistics, 70% of all of our households are run by single parent who? Black women, mothers, right? And they say that as a collective group, gender and ethnic combined, black women are the largest group that are the most unpartnered out of every single gender or ethnic group that exists on the planet Earth. And so the question is, why is it that so many black women are alone? Why is it that they're unpartnered? Why is it that they're not married? What is taking place? Is it an individual choice? Is there an acculturation process that has taken place that has caused this dynamic to exist? What are the external factors that are contributing to this reality? Because if your situation is no different than hers and hers and hers and hers, and every one of us seem to be going through the same thing, we've got to look at this. There's got to be a reason for this. And so what I'm saying is what we have experienced as a people is quite unique, that is creating this reality today. And you have to go back some 390 years to the plantation, because in order to solve a problem, you've got to go back to the root of the problem. And when you go back to the root and look at all the dynamics, then you can come back forward and see what you need to do to solve that problem. And what I find that's interesting, this is a chapter. Now, how many of you, by show of hands, because my question becomes, why is it that so many strong, successful, independent black women are alone? Does anybody ever ask that question? So in the book, we talk about those reasons. And there are several reasons, but we've broken it down to 3 reasons. 3 things that men have done to contribute to the problem, and 3 things that women have done to contribute to the problem. Can I break that down? Let's talk about the men for a second. Now, understand that when you're talking about relationships, you have to deal in generalities, because you're always going to find the exception to the rule. Is that correct? So in a general sense, let's begin with the men. Some men, correct me if I'm wrong, some men are intimidated by a strong, black, successful, independent woman. Is that correct? Yes. He's either intimidated by her position, whether she is a high executive, if she owns her own business, he's intimidated by her position. He may be intimidated by her possessions. She has her own house. She has her own car. She's accumulated things throughout the course of her life. Or he's intimidated by her personality, right? She's strong. She's determined. She's focused. She's no nonsense. She's about her business. And those 3 things either keep him from pursuing her or keep him from remaining within that relationship. Is that true or not true? There are some men who have a feeling of inadequacy when they're in the presence of a successful woman. So every time he sees her, it's a reminder of what he's failed to do in his own life. And so when he sees her, he goes through this internal battle, thinking that he's not good enough, thinking that he can't bring it up to the table because he's looking at all of the success that she's accumulated within her own life. So it keeps him from approaching her or remaining within that relationship. Number 3, some men, not all, somebody say some men are traditional in their thinking. Right? They have that Archie Bunker mentality, much like the video we saw in the other session. They don't believe it's a woman's role to have a job and to make money. They don't believe it's a woman's role to do that. She should be barefoot and pregnant, ironing his drawers, cooking his meals at home. And so because of that, many refuse to approach or remain within that relationship. Are all these examples of things that do occur? Yes. But now we got to talk about the girl. Because the reality is there are many men, even in this room, that aren't intimidated by your success. They're not intimidated by the fact that you make more money. Not that at all. But sometimes it's the attitude of superiority that you bring into the relationship that causes the problem. Because when he was making money, it was all good. But now we're seeing that women are now surpassing men, and now they wield the power, they're making the money, and there's an attitude that comes along with that. And so oftentimes a woman can emasculate that man with her things. And oftentimes she will compare what he's done to what she's done. And that will make a man back up. And it's interesting because we're seeing a shift in society today. The cover of Time magazine just a couple of months ago said that women are the richer gender or the richer sex. So we're seeing a shift of roles taking place. According to a statistic that just came out in 2011, it says that men are now the #1 benefactors of marriage. That's deep. That is deep. Because traditionally, men were the ones that were out getting the jobs, making the money, bringing it home. Women were more domesticated, and that is the way it was. Those were the gender roles. But now we're seeing a switch. So there was a time when we had pretty women and working men. But now it seems like we have a whole lot of pretty men and working women. We switch roles. And now things are getting all twisted and confused and messed up. Because many of us have been trained and acculturated and raised to believe that we should seek out a traditional man. But many of you are now non-traditional women. You want a conventional man, but you are an unconventional woman. So now we're dealing with the confusion of what we actually are in reality versus what we were taught that we should be and have in society. So now there's this power struggle that exists between the man and the woman in the relationship, and money oftentimes gets in the way. How many people saw that movie, Why Did I Get Married To? Wasn't that a good movie? No. Now, it was okay. You know what? Honestly, you're right. The first one was better than the second one. The second one, it was just so intense. It was just like, oh God. Now remember the divorce scene when Janet Jackson and Malik Yoba were at the table and they were breaking up all of those accounts because they were getting a divorce, but there was that one account that she had. I think it was like $800,000 in that account, and she was just like, that's my money. You didn't write these books. You didn't go on these speeches. You ain't had nothing to do with that. How could you expect to get anything of this money? Now, how many of you agree with that position? Raise your hands up high so I can see you. Interesting. If the shoe were on the other foot, and that man had that bank account, and he was out traveling the country, speaking, writing books, making money, and had this stash of cash in the account that you knew about, and you were getting a divorce, how many of you would expect that you would qualify for some of that money? The same hands that just went up that said that the woman should keep the money are the same hands that just went up that said that you deserve a piece of the money. Now, see the problem here? So a lot of times, the relationships that we have are messed up because our relationship with money has become messed up. And what we're seeing in our relationships today is that the one who has the money is the one who has the power. And because the power is shifting, it's causing problems in our relationship. So, going back to the point, number one, women have the attitude that comes along with the power and the money that causes the problem. Number two, as women begin to empower themselves, and as women begin to get great jobs and great money, and they become more spiritually empowered, all of these different things, every accomplishment that she has in her life becomes the new qualifier in her relationship. What does that mean? That means if she's got a good job, he better have a good job. If she's got a degree, he better have a degree. If she owns her own home, he better not rent. If she makes $150,000 a year, he better not make $1 less. If she can bench press 250 pounds, he better come correct. So everything that she does, he's got to do equally good or better, and if not, he's disqualified and X'd off the list. And what's deep about that is, many women have been in pursuit. Now think about this. When women graduate, a lot of times you're graduating with your degrees. There have been other women who have been said that once they graduate with their MRS degree, their Mrs. degree, because they soon have to get married after their college experience. But many black women are not getting married. And unfortunately, black women are forced to make a choice that they should not have to make. And that is, do I pursue my man or pursue my mission? What's deep about this is that many women think that men are scared of commitment. And that's not true. Men are not scared of commitment. Men want commitment, but they just want it at a different season in life than you do. Because what's interesting is that women typically want commitment much younger in life. Men want commitment much older in life. And so, in the season of when you want that marriage and that relationship, for whatever reason, he's not ready. And so you're forced to make a choice. Because I can't get my man when I want my man, I'm going to switch gears and pursue my mission. And what's happening is, because women have been in search for a good man with good money and a good job and a provider and can't find that at that season in life, she's made the decision to become that. So in essence, women have become the men that they seek. Did you hear that? So now, when you enter into the relationship, you're now playing the role that you were looking for him to play. You're bringing your resume into the relationship because that's what you were looking for in that man. But you become that. You become that by circumstance, you become that by force, and because now women are outpacing our men, and some of our men, their progress has been arrested, their development has been arrested, now we have inequality in these relationships. Is that what we see? That's causing challenges now. Now, it's quite interesting, because when we're dealing with the strong, how many of you by show of hands would agree that you're a strong, black, independent woman? Let me see your hands. Very interesting. There's a chapter in, are you learning something? Yeah. Are you getting something? There's a chapter in this book entitled, Too Strong for Your Own Good. It's quiet in here now. And what is my point? My point is, as black women, there has been a historical legacy of strength that is in your history, where you were forced to be strong. You were forced to play roles that you were never designed to play. You were forced to be mommy and dad. You were forced to be husband and wife. You were forced to have high levels of femininity and high levels of masculinity by circumstance. And so even on the plantation, we know that the black family was decimated. And every single time a couple got together, something happened to that family. Examples would be that husband would be sold off to another plantation or would be lynched and used as an example to all the rest. And so a woman constantly has her man taken from her. Sometimes the baby would be snatched out of a woman's arms and sold off to another plantation or used as bait. Oh yeah. And so she's in a position now where all of a sudden she's seeing everything being taken away from her. So when she has children, she raises that son up on the plantation to say, be quiet, don't be aggressive, play dumb, don't come across educated, because if you do, your life may be at risk. She trains that girl up on the plantation to be strong, to be independent, just in case your man is taken from you. These lessons have been passed down from generation to generation to generation, even in our households today. How many of you, by a show of hands, have been taught by your mother or your mother and your father to be strong, to be independent, to have you on this, to have you on that, don't rely on no man? Look at the hands.
I don't rely.
So they have trained you to prepare yourself to exist without a man. Now, even though their teaching was good to a degree, because it trains you to be strong and independent in those situations, it was not complete. So we heard more teachings that said, if he's not there, if he doesn't do right, this is what you need to do. But many of us, unfortunately, haven't been given the lessons, this is how a man should treat you. This is how you should treat a man. And so what we're doing now, we're entering into relationships, leaving men with no role to play because we were trained to do without him. So many of our parents are raising our daughters to be men. See, this is deep. This is really deep. And so now we have relationships with all types of issues. And we're wondering why. Because when a woman says something like, you know what, I'm strong, I'm independent, I don't need no man. When you say that, that's a good thing because you're talking about your strength, you're talking about your ability, you're prideful about what you can accomplish as a woman. And women are making it happen, women are doing it. But the reality is, everyone in society, the name of the chapter is Too Strong for Your Own Good, everyone historically has benefited from the strength of black women, but black women. The community has benefited from her strength, her man has benefited from her strength, her children have benefited from her strength, except you. And so now we have relationships where you don't need a man because you think that's good. But when men hear that, they hear something completely different. They're saying, well, okay, if you don't need no man, and if you can do it all by yourself, then be by yourself. And that's why we see such an alarming rate of our beautiful, strong, intelligent women by themselves. And it's unfortunate and it's unfair. When you understand what independence really means, you may have a different take on it. Now, in the book, which many of you have, according to the word independence, can I give you the definition? According to Roger Super Thesaurus, Independent means self-determining, self-governing, self-reliant, self-sufficient, and separate. Likewise, the word dependent means to rely upon for support, to place trust or confidence in. And so when these operational definitions are used, they tell a very powerful message. When a man or woman is committed to being independent within their relationship, what they're really saying is, I don't trust you. I have no confidence in you. I can't rely upon you. I'm going to be self-determined, self-governing, and self-sufficient. And that's fine as long as you are by yourself. But anytime you enter into a relationship and you commit yourself to being independent, it causes a problem because you leave that other partner with no role to play. So whether it's coming from a man or a woman, independence is never good within the confines of a relationship. You should never be independent of, and you should never be completely dependent upon. You should have interdependence, where you're relying on one another. And when you need to be self-sufficient, that's when it rises up. See, when he's not doing good, when he's falling on hard times, that's when your self-sufficiency should step up to the plate. But you don't want to bring that into the relationship if he's capable of doing what he needs to do. Does that make sense?